I went to Home Depot yesterday to get grout sealer, grout for tile, because it dirty's really easy. And I'm looking at these two containers, two spray bottles. One is $42 and the other is $20. And they're the same brand, same ounces, everything. I'm looking at the back, everything's the same. And I'm thinking, why is one over twice as much as the other? And the only difference that I can see is the one that's $42 says 20-year money back guarantee. And I thought, what am I going to do? 18 years from now, I'm going to walk in with the receipt to Home Depot and say, I'm sorry, this grout sealer just didn't work for me. I'd like to get my money back, What, what, you gotta be kidding. It'd be like 2006. I buy it in 2006 and I appear at their door in 2008. And in 2026, I take the half bottle that's faded with a receipt and say, I'd like to get my money back.
You never
Yeah, I had to resist the urge. Man, I kind of want that money back guarantee, that might be worth something someday. I've never taken back a bottle of anything in my entire life.
She isn't faded so much.
Then there's that too, as well as the bottle.
You'd have to frame it and put it next to the bottle to see where it's at.
There are people that keep every single receipt of anything they ever bought. Are any of those people in here right now? I'm not. Every once in a while I miss. Whoops, I wanted that one.
business receipts.
Yeah, I'm not as good as.
Okay, we're in chapter 35. We talked about a lot of stuff that really didn't have a lot to do with chapter 35 last week. And you'll notice these tabs up here at the top. Want to do a little bit of that right now. This is Jacob's trip back to Bethel, which is an origin story. That was the first place that Abraham built an altar that we know of. And that was the place that Jacob slept at on his way out to Paddan Aram when he was fleeing from Esau, where God appeared to him. And God basically started a covenant that I'm going to be with you and so on and so forth. And then Jacob responds with how he's supposed to respond. Well, then in that case, if you do all of that, then this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to give you a tenth and so on and so forth. And so he comes back after God appears to him to call in his promise, call him on his promise on his way back into Canaan. Now he gets here and these things have happened with Dinah and so forth. And there's still 11 kids. Rachel hasn't had Benjamin yet, but now God has appeared to him in chapter 35 and he's sending him back to Bethel. And it's like this. It's an origin story in the history of Israel. And this is going to be covenant renewal. This is a covenant renewal chapter. And so he's going to make an altar. There you can see it. First line of chapter 35. Abraham built an altar there. Bethel built an altar there. And it's associated with this statement, put away the foreign gods that are among you. And so I associate it with kind of the birth of monotheism in the history of Israel, which they hardly even nodded at in their history. But that direct association between God calling him in as his peculiar people here and putting away the foreign gods that are among you. It's a natural, it's two sides of the same coin. There will not be a a pantheon, like a Roman or Greek thing, where you have a sort of a panel and you have a panel of gods, and you're going to add Yahweh to the gods. No, this God comes in. There's only room for one God in Bethel, and that's me. And Jacob knows that. And so he knows he can't go to Bethel with his whole group with these foreign gods among his people. Why it didn't happen before that, I have no idea. But they're all associated together. Covenant renewal, Bethel, and monotheism. We see it all come to come together here in this appearance by God and the subsequent actions. And so we talked about Bethel, and so I was looking into it, and they got ruins on a lot of these cities, and that's the case with Bethel as well. So here's Bethel. I talked about tells, these cities that are built on mounds that become hills because they build cities one on top of the other on top of the ruins of a city. So they keep moving up. And so you end up with these mounds or hills that all these cities are on over and over and over again. And this is the one, these are the ruins for Bethel. And this is their reconstruction of it, I guess. But the point, if you wonder why there's so much ruins, look at all this. It's not because of this, it's because Bethel became a center of idolatry during the the divided monarchy when the kingdom disintegrated after Solomon died. Bethel was set up as an idolatrous center of worship by Jeroboam. And so there's all these ruins that's a record of that. And I don't know, to me it's fascinating. That's Bethlehem. I don't really know. Oh, I did Bethel, so it found Bethlehem as well. Is that really Bethel? That must have been a building. The church over the years would build on these sites as well. So you have in Jerusalem, you have the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is thought to be a church over the top of, what is that? Never mind. I don't want to get any more distracted than I am right now. Somebody can look it up. So that's Bethel. And here's another great example of this, Lachish, which was the second city to Jerusalem during the later years of the divided kingdom before the Assyrians destroyed Samaria, which was the northern kingdom of Israel. And it's a fascinating story, but it's the same thing. It's a tell. You can see it here real easy. And so what happened was, if you look at this where it's built up right here,
How many layers is that?
many. It can be many. Yeah. You can actually see like the destruction layers if the city was burned. They'll keep going down and then suddenly there's a burn layer. And then you go below that, there's the city before that.
They have
you know.
enough.
Yeah, and they would build over the top of it, yeah. Or use the materials, displace the materials, get it smooth or however they do it, and use those materials, which is my guess that's what they did. But anyway, in 722 BC, which would be a long time after this, here we are back here during the patriarchal period in Canaan. There's Jacob / Israel. It's about to be renamed Israel permanently. And Israel doesn't really become Israel until David. That's why there's a green connection here with the kingdom of David. But now long ways into the future, here, the northern kingdom was going to be destroyed by Shalmaneser, I think. And after that, the Assyrians would attack the southern kingdom under Sennacherib. This is Hezekiah, 10 times. And he attacks Lachish. And the way that he does that, they still have the remains of that attack because you can see the mount, you can see where he built like a siege work, where you build a ramp, you just bring in tons and tons of rocks and you keep piling it up. And you keep moving it up because you want to get up here to the top where they are. And that's what they did. And so you can actually see what we can do even better. Yeah,
So this was not a short stay, because doing all that manual lifting, that'd take forever.
Months. That's the story of Masada.
Yeah.
After the Jewish war, when Jerusalem was destroyed, the remaining rebels fled to Masada, a few miles away, actually built by Herod. the top of Masada was going to be an outpost. They retreated to that. And so the Romans had to get up there. And so what they did, it's 900 feet high or something like that. So they spent 3 months slowly building a ramp. I mean, you're at the top, 900 people. I don't know, 900 Jews were up there. I don't know how tall the Masada was. You can look it up. But they still have the remains of the Romans building the siege, where they were building this ramp, and you can sit there and watch it for months. There's the Romans, and nothing you can do about it. And they're slowly building the ramp. And you just have to sit there and watch
I
it.
think there's a lot of anxiety going on within the walls of Masada.
And so then before they could finish the ramp, that's when the mass suicide happened. But all of that, there's remains of all of that. You can go online and see it. And that's what was happening here at Lachish. And so let's see what else we got. Well, what's interesting about this story, Lachish, this is probably the siege right here. What's interesting about this story is they succeeded in destroying Lachish, and then the king turns on Jerusalem, threatens them, but that attack failed. And was it Sennacherib that got killed?
Yeah.
He went back.
When he went back, his kids killed him in the temple. I was just reading yesterday.
Yeah.
Kids killed him in the temple.
So he goes back, and you know,
I'm just saying his temple, not the Jewish temple.
so they keep a record. They keep record of the glories of their conquest, right? So when Titus destroyed Jerusalem, that was a great victory because they almost weren't able to do it. So to this day, Titus was given a tribute, which meant that a arch was built in honor of his defeat of Jerusalem, in Judea. And so that arch remains to today. You can look it up. It's still in Rome. It's this grand arch. And so they memorialize these kinds of, well, Lachish is memorialized. But the only thing that's reported in the archaeological evidence in the former Nineveh is the attack on Jerusalem, but not the defeat of Jerusalem. So you see the attack and defeat on Lachish and the defeat, but you see only the attack on Jerusalem. There's no record of its defeat.
Of course, we know why. Lachish was a Philistine settlement. They had no real God.
But these were Jews. This was the second city to Jerusalem.
So by that time, the Jews had taken Lachish.
Yeah. It's not very far away. They're pretty close to each other. Not bad. At this point, also, the Jews were not really monotheistic. So what's the difference? And in 722, what's the difference between a Philistine? What's the difference between a Canaanite and an Israelite? Which of the gods they worship? I don't know.
Well, there was at least one or two Israelites that were fully devoted.
Yeah.
That's Guy and Isaiah.
Was I gonna? Okay, so we can go ahead and continue here. He's told to go to Bethel, so they go to Bethel. That's right here. That's going to begin their Yahweh worship, the worship of the God of Abraham, the creator of all things. And then you have, so we're gonna go, I gotta get my notes in case I'm missing them. I want to make sure I don't miss anything that I wrote down that's unimportant, because I do that. It seems important at the time that I write it down. And then I realize it's not important. All right. Now I got out the notes that I'm not going to look at after about 1 minute from now. Okay. All right, let's move on with 5. And as they journeyed, a terror from God fell upon the cities that were around them, so that they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. Remember what just happened in Shechem. They destroyed the city in this shadowy prefiguring of the conquest. And I was looking this morning or listening to Deuteronomy, and there's this line in there in the commands, chapter 2, or I don't remember which chapter it is, but about how when you do this, you will not, it's exactly what happened with Shechem. It's you will not make a covenant with them, and you will not take their daughters for wives, and they will not take your daughters for wives, which is exactly what was being arranged with between Jacob and Shechem. The intermarriage, and then also a covenant that to become one people. That's explicit with Hivites in Deuteronomy. These Shechemites were Hivites. And so it's so close. It might be the closest instance of a foreshadowing of the conquest in all of Genesis. But anyway, here's another element of foreshadowing. As they journeyed to terror, a terror from God fell upon the cities that were around them, so that they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. Does that sound familiar?
Mhm.
Wow.
Like Joshua.
This is the story of Rahab. What happened to Rahab?
You spared.
She felt the terror with a little bit of help from God. Little divinely inspired insight into the terror. Joshua, son of Nun, sent 2 men secretly from Shittim, doesn't come over to English very well, as spies, saying, "Go and view the land, especially Jericho." They came to the house of a prostitute. They don't know that. It just so happens that she's a prostitute. I don't know. I have no idea. Or they do know because of some physical phenomena, and they know that people aren't going to go there. I have no idea. But that's the story. Her name was Rahab, and they lodged there. And it was told the king of Jericho that these men had come out to search the land. So the king of Jericho sent to Rahab, bring out the men. She fools them. And now she goes back to deal with these guys as she's hidden on the roof. Before the men lay down, she came up to them on the roof and said, "I know that the Lord, Yahweh, has given you the land, and that the fear of you has fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land melt away before you. For we heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea before you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the 2 kings of the Amorites, king of Sihon and king of Bashan, I think, who were beyond the Jordan." Oh, Sihon, there it is right there. "Whom you just devoted to destruction. And as soon as we heard of it, our hearts melted, and there was no spirit left in any man because of you. For the Lord your God, He is God in the heavens above and on the earth beneath." Sounds like a Hebrew, doesn't it? The creator of all things, heavens and the earth. But that turns out that parting of the sea and what happened, that would make the news. If the imperialistic, what's the word? Not empirical, good grief. If the big power in the area, Egypt, if the army just got effectively destroyed right down there, in my view, Gulf of Aqaba. I don't have a map. Yeah, I do. If I never opened my slides. If that all happened right here, which is what I think, well, up here is where we're talking about, right here. Well, that would make the news. There's the Midianites over here, Edomites here, Moabites and Ammonites and so forth, Amorites. So there's a lot of things that the terror of them wasn't just some kind of divine terror that God inflicted on them in a spiritual sense. That probably was true. But you know that there's this people making their way up the coast. Maybe you sent out spies. They managed to either you think of it as either they managed to escape from the Egyptians, or the Egyptians were so terrified of these people that they expelled them. And then when the Egyptians tried to take them on, the army got destroyed. So that's all preceded them. Now they're coming up the coast. And the word is getting around that they plan on taking Canaan, probably. What? It doesn't matter how many of them there are. You know that this has already happened. You're absolutely terrified. And so there's two ways to respond to that. You can hopelessly, feudalistically, impotently try to fight it, or you can do what Rahab did and concede the obvious, that your God, obviously, is incomparably greater than any of our gods. So I'm gonna join your side.
And of course, the interesting thing with Rahab, you learn from Matthew, she was a ancestor of Christ.
Yeah, she made her way into the book of life, I think. So that's the fear and terror stuff. He says it straight up in Deuteronomy 2. When he sends them north to go begin the conquest, this day I will begin to put the dread and fear of you on the people, not the dread and fear of me. They will be terrified of you, God says, on the peoples who are under the whole heaven, who shall hear the report of you, there it is, and shall tremble and be in anguish because of you. That's all prefigured, I believe, right here. So Jacob was worried that because of what happened to Shechem, because these sons killed all the males and they took everybody prisoner and so on and so forth, that would cause the peoples to attack him. It's exactly the opposite thing. It feeds this fear and terror of these people, and it will continue on down through the centuries. Because by the time Exodus opens up, they don't know what to do with this people. They keep multiplying and they begin to get scared of them, worried about them. And their solution was to do the stupid thing, which was to afflict them with large, hard labor. But when you do that, all you do is annoy their God, who finally decided to do something about it. Rather than do what Rahab did and say, all right, I'm going to join your side. Because the Egyptians, in theory, it would never have happened in reality. But in theory, you know what? We can kind of see the writing on the wall here. Let's make an arrangement. What do you want? But that was never going to happen. In the world of philosophy, I would deny middle knowledge, which you probably don't know what it is, and say there is no possible world in which Egypt was going to do something other than what they did and attempt to suppress this slave people. If you wonder what middle knowledge is, you can look it up. Okay. Was any of that in my notes? It sounded pretty good when I said it. I don't think I have any more to say about that. So this is going to be a transfer to covenant promises. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. And it's gonna fill out the complete the identification of God all the way into the New Testament times. I am the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob. Not the God of Israel. That's interesting. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay. Let's see.
I was reading one study Bible, whichever one it was. The writer seemed to think that this incident of going to Bethel was about 8 to 10 years after they returned to Canaan. I don't know where they got it from, but according to that person, they've been in Canaan for quite a while before this all happened.
Joseph will be 17 years old when he gets sold into slavery. So things happen quick because he was born in Paddan Aram. God appeared to Jacob again. He got more appearances than all the rest of them put together that are recorded. When he came from Paddan Aram and blessed him. And God said to him, your name is Jacob. No longer shall your name be called Jacob, but Israel shall be your name. So he called his name Israel. And God said to him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. Hint, hint. A nation and a company of nations shall come from you, and kings shall come from your own body. The land that I gave to Abraham and Isaac, I will give to you. There's the transfer of the covenant promise, chapter 15. And I will give the land to your offspring after you. So implicit, but remember, implied and implicit in that is you're kind of in the same situation as Abraham and Isaac. It's going to be the nation. I'm not promising to permanently give you the land now, because what you don't know, Jacob, is that you're all going to Egypt. He holds that back. And then 400 years later, I'll bring them back and give them the land my way.
What's the difference between a nation and a company of nations?
More than one nation.
More than Israel?
Yeah, that's what he seems to be saying here.
Well, each tribe became their own,
You could think of it that way.
mini nation, if you will, just like the United States is made up of,
Yeah.
15 independent states.
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know what I think about
That
that.
same promise was given to Abraham, and we know multiple nations did come because Ishmael had
Yeah.
his nation.
Plus all the other,
I don't know Keturah's kids.
plus all the concubines,
Right.
you know.
And then with Isaac, same thing was given, and Esau had his own nation too.
But not here. So I'm not exactly sure what I noticed that. I didn't I took note of it, but didn't look into it. I mean, all you get is the information. There's no other information unless you want to trace some kind of lineage from Jacob outside of Israel, outside of the 12 tribes. The land that I gave to Abraham, I will give to you, and I will give land to offspring. Then God went up from him in the place where he had spoken with him. And Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he had spoken with him, a pillar of stone. He poured out a drink offering on it, poured oil on it. So Jacob called the name of the place where God had spoken with him, Bethel. So we have the place name. I'm kind of curious. What does Israel mean? El means God. It's the singular. I don't know. We'll trust these guys. Israel is a name given in his. Come on, I just want the name. Etymology. Not clear. Oh, okay. Well, then I'm going to shut that. We don't know. A lot of times we try to guess the meaning of the name by the event that happened. So, Bethel. You try to think of something God of something, God of the altar that Jacob built. That's what Bethel means. Okay. I mean, I can read the narrative, but what?
Bethel literally means house of God.
Beth, his house?
House of God.
Okay, that was easier.
El being the name for the shortened version of Elohim.
All right, let's see. And that's it. So it's this commemoration, covenant renewal ceremony. They'll never be the same. They'll never be the same in the history of redemption. Does not mean that the sons changed one little bit, as we're going to find out in the next chapter, or 2 chapters from now. I'm probably going to kind of skip 36 because it's the lineage of Esau. And I got nothing to say about it. And I don't want to read all his names
There you go.
for the ritual of doing it. I'll have a couple things, but we're just going to move on to another graphic and nasty story in 37.
Yep.
All right, let's see. Hmm, okay. Rachel, what happened to her? And Isaac, tying up loose ends here. We're still on, not even loose ends. We're only at 11 sons. So it's interesting that the 12th son is almost, it's almost an afterthought. And it's associated with Rachel's death. And that's, we don't even know she's pregnant. So at some point, he decides to, in the reporting of her death, either in the reporting of her death, he reports Benjamin's birth, or in the reporting of Benjamin's birth, he records her death. Think of it either which way. But Rachel's going to get a commemoration memorial as well. Then they journeyed from Bethel. When they were still some distance from Ephrath, we'll get back to that, Rachel went into labor. Oh, okay. She had hard labor. And when her labor was at its hardest, the midwife said to her, "Do not fear, for you have another son." And as her soul was departing, for she was dying, she called his name Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. So Rachel died, sad story, and she was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. And that death and that city should key an event in the New Testament, which we'll get back to. And Jacob set up a pillar over her tomb. It is the pillar of Rachel's tomb, which is there to this day. So we have that interesting idea, and we have that interesting addition there, to this day. And when is this day? Israel journeyed on and pitched his tent beyond the tower of Eder, which who knows? So that's the story of the birth of Benjamin and then the death of Rachel, coincident. And we want to look at Matthew chapter 2.
The one thing that I'll say that interests me out of that is, you would think that, because Benjamin was born in Bethlehem, that Bethlehem would have been part of the territory of Benjamin. It was part of the territory of Judah.
City of David.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're sometime after the birth of Jesus, and Herod, the superstitious and terribly paranoid king, at the end of his life now, within a couple of years, he was utterly paranoid. He went on during this time, he was already on it. This is totally consistent with his mindset and his behavior at this time in his life, because he went on a murder spree where he killed a bunch of his own family members because he was so paranoid what they were going to do, including his wife, Miriam, maybe? I don't.
He killed several of his wives, actually.
And, I've said it before, in Rome, when it comes to these Roman kings or the vassal kings and Roman leaders, the emperors and so forth, if you wonder why they did so much killing, the answer is murder or be murdered. They didn't take any chances. If they even thought 10 years from now that you might be a threat. That's the big mystery about the death of Germanicus, who was the great king who should have been the next emperor after Augustus, or after Tiberius. He would have been next in line. He would have been a very popular emperor. He was one of their great military generals. He was also the father of Caligula, who would be one of the worst emperor, who lasted 4 years before the Praetorian Guard said, the bodyguard said, "We got to get rid of this guy." I think it was the bodyguard. And so he lasted 4 years. But he was the son of Germanicus, and there's mystery around the death of Germanicus and whether Tiberius was worried about him and took action. Because Tiberius, in the last few years of his life, did exactly the same thing. Get terribly paranoid, did murder spree. He moved to some island, Capri, and stayed there for the last 10 years of his life with them. I don't know how he maintained being the emperor, but I don't know what they get to the end of their lives, and the years of paranoia just take over, and they just lose it.
I'm not sure that these people, at least the kings themselves, considered what they were doing as murder. They just thought it was, politically expedient.
Absolutely, they had no regard. everything in their minds is a calculation. It's a cost benefit, risk reward. Everything is done. There are a few exceptions, but everything is done based on the calculation of risk versus reward, and then cost versus benefit. Herod, when he saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, come on, why is that translated wise men? Should be like,
Imagine.
should be probably astrologers would be the more accurate interpretation, translation. He became furious. So what happened was the astrologers came in, and then they went to look for him. Herod tricked them and said, "Hey, let me know what you find out about this future king, because I want to worship him too." He was using them for intel. So they go and they find out, but they get a visitation from God, and they depart another way, so that they never met Herod again. I'm not also sure. We don't know that there were three of them. The We Three Kings from Orient, whatever it is, the song. They weren't kings, probably. We don't know how many there were, and we don't know where they were from.
We just know there was three.
This astrologers came in. Does it say from the east somewhere?
They came from the east.
That's all you know.
More than likely, they were coming from, Babylon, / Persia. Chances are they had been under the influence of Daniel.
And in all that region, so Herod then killed all the male children in Bethlehem, in all that region, who were 2 years old and under, according to the time that he had ascertained from the astrologers, wise men. Did not taking any chances. Let's get them all. Let's just get everybody. You can't be older than 2, so just kill everyone under the age of 2 years old. Thus was fulfilled, man, Rachel just sad in life and sad in the tradition, because this place is associated with Rachel. Was fulfilled what was spoken by the prophet Jeremiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, weeping and loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be comforted because they are no more. Well, only in the origin story, Rachel's the one who dies. So that's another one. So now we have the birth of Benjamin. What do I have to say about that? Okay.
Well, the dad changed his name from Ben Oni, which is probably son of my sorrow, to Benjamin, which means son of my right hand.
Well, I wrote down son of misfortune or mourning to son of good fortune, or something like that. And if that's right, son of mourning or misfortune, that just gives you a sense of Rachel's mindset at this point. She said, the midwife said, "Fear not. You have another son." Her response is, "Well, I'm going to name him son of mourning," or, whatever.
It sounds like she literally died of labor, so I
Yeah.
guess that she's feeling great.
Yeah, but if she lives and it's your second son, it's a joyous time. You name him.
And she knew that she was dying. You killed me, kid.
Okay. That's all I got. So we have our only son who was actually born in Canaan, which is an interesting development for the children of Israel. They were all foreigners. They were all foreigners to the land of Canaan. Now we get immediately this use of Israel. While Israel lived in that land, what's going on in this chat? What's going on in the stories, right? What they're choosing, I've said it before, you pay attention to Hey, what stories are they choosing to tell? How much text are they giving to the stories? What order are they giving them? So you have, he gets back from Paddan Aram, he gets to Canaan, they're gonna be happily ever after. No, it's the story of Dinah and basically the destruction of Shechem. Then you go, okay, well, there's this covenant renewal story. You go, oh, that's great. Then immediately the death of Rachel. And then this ridiculous side note that takes one verse.
Less than one.
He just reports it. And then he moves on. While Israel lived in that land, we don't know when, Israel he called him. Reuben went, what's the point? Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine. And Israel, not Jacob, Israel heard of it. Well, what is that in Israelite history? Taking your father's wife, let's just say.
Well, it's that's a form.
That's literally an abomination. I didn't look it up, but that's one of the ones that gets rocks thrown at you.
I think the law of Moses would refer to it as uncovering your father's nakedness.
So he uses the name of the nation, Israel, as if to imply the nature of the defilement, of the sacrilege, of the sin that Reuben committed in Israel. Not the father, but in Israel, the nation. Because he chooses to use Israel twice right here. It's bracketed. Israel, what Reuben did, Israel. It's kind of hard to miss. So there's this great evil done in Israel, for which there's no consequences here.
He brings out as, at the end of when he gives his blessing and cursing of his sons, this comes up.
That's this right here, right?
Yep. And
Israel heard it.
now the first three sons of Jacob have all disqualified themselves from the blessing.
Yeah. Although
Judah,
Reuben will get an allotment of land.
they'll get a lot of land, but Judah gets the blessing.
Now the sons of Jacob were 12. So he concludes that part of it. We now have the 12 patriarchs, but not before he records what happened with Reuben. And then he reports the sons. So now we have the final chronicle of the sons. The sons of Leah, Reuben, who he's just besmirched heavily and permanently discredited. Jacob's firstborn Simeon, who's already discredited. Levi, whom he's already discredited. Judah, who's about to be discredited. Issachar and Zebulun. Maybe the best thing in Genesis is if there's no stories written about you. If there's no stories written about you, you were just fine. Because the ones that are written, they're not acts of heroism or they're not commendable. Nothing like that. It's every time there's a story about a son, we're going to have Judah coming up here in a little bit. Reuben is actually going to try to, in spite of this, there's going to be two stories coming up where Reuben is going to act in an honorable fashion. So he's doing this not in order of birth. He's doing this in order of matriarchs, wives. So first up is Leah. She has 6. Then the sons of Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin, the sons of Bilhah, which is Rachel's maid, or Dan and Naphtali, the sons of Zilpah, Leah's, Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Paddan Aram, but we know that Benjamin was actually just born. So I don't know.
I stopped and I think, I wonder what Dan and Naphtali thought about Reuben after this.
Were they all that close? We're gonna get some indications that we've already got indications that they thought in terms of their little mother group.
They did, and you get the idea when you get to the story of Joseph being sold that they were not at all listening to what Reuben had said.
No, they weren't, and he was being very careful, as if he knew the treachery that these brothers were capable of. Yeah. And Joseph is not primarily concerned with them. He's very, very suspicious of them when he's in Egypt and they come. He's interested in Benjamin, his own mother's other son.
Do we know how much younger Benjamin is than Joseph?
All we can say is that he's no more than Joseph is no more than 17 years older, because he will be 17 years old when sold into slavery.
We just don't know they don't give you a genealogy that gives you the timeline.
Yeah. All right, Jacob came to his father. Oh, he's still there. Isaac at Mamre, Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, another very important city in the history of Israel, which we'll talk about later, where Abraham and Isaac had sojourned. Now the days of Isaac were 180 years, and Isaac breathed his last, and he died and was gathered to his people, old and full of days, and his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. So you have, it's not a heartwarming story. It's Esau and Jacob don't have a problem anymore. They're going to bury Isaac together. And we do not hear about the death of Rebekah. Oddly, we hear about the death of, oh, wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. We did hear. Yeah, we heard of,
the death of Sarah, but I don't remember the death of Rebecca offhand.
we did not hear about the death of Rebekah, but we do hear about the death of Rebekah's nurse. I don't know. It's not the way I would do it, but
Do we?
Just the next section of, before the death, if you scroll up.
Yeah, it's at the
a little bit,
top.
it tells- Right in, just before that, it tells, keep going down, back down. Okay, right in,
somewhere in here,
yeah.
8?
Okay, right in verse 8. And Deborah's,
right here.
right, Rebecca's nurse sack.
Oh,
I don't know.
which is interesting, because what does she have to do with that whole story? Because Rebecca.
Exactly. We never knew about her before.
Yeah.
So I put down some ages. If Isaac blessed Jacob in proximity to Esau and his unfortunate marriages, that happened when Esau was 40. Then Isaac was at least 100 when he thought he was about to die before Paddan Aram.
Yeah.
He was 60 when Esau and Jacob were born. But he didn't die for another, he died at 180.
That is 180. He lived the longest of the patriarchs. And there's no written about him.
Unless Rebecca's still alive at this point.
About the death of the wife, if it's before the husband.
We hear about what they want to tell us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Where that's.
Okay, can I talk to people here for a second before you leave? I'm gonna go ahead and shut this down. Thanks for joining.